Tigers advance, Cubs advance, Yankees advance, and a great weekend. Cubs, Brewers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Dodgers, Phillies, Tigers, and the Mariners. CC Sabathia, Hall of Famer, World Series champ with the Yankees back in '09. MLB's postseason continues this weekend. The divisional series, TBS, Fox Sports 1, MLB Network airing pre- and post-game coverage. Good to see you again. How old were you with your first playoff game?
I was 20 years old, my first playoff game. Pitched in, I just turned 21, I'm sorry. Pitched in the playoff game in 2001 against the Mariners, that team that had won, they won 114 games. So I pitched game 3 of that series.
What do you remember? Like, being 21, how can that help you in a situation like that?
I mean, it can help you by not knowing what you're walking into, and not understanding, the gravity or the magnitude of the games you're pitching. But for me, being a huge fan and sports fan my whole life and understanding, what it meant to be an ace, I'm throwing that up there with air quotations, being 21 years old. I wanted to go out and, have that postseason that everybody's like, oh my God, look at this guy. He's the greatest pitcher. Jared Wright had just did that in '97. He was the young guy and took that team all the way to the World Series. So that was kind of my thinking. I got into the game and I was a little nervous. I think I gave up 3 runs in the first inning. And I'm walking off the field, and Robbie Alomar comes and he goes, "Hey, how you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm good. I'll be fine." And as we're walking back to the bench, he looks and he says, "Don't shake off Enar the rest of the game." Enar Diaz was our catcher. He was like, "Whatever he puts down, just call the pitches." So I didn't shake him off. Go 6 innings, give up 3 runs. The only 3 runs I gave up was in that first inning. And after the game, they tell me that Robbie was calling the pitches from second base. Robbie called the game from second base, and I just went out and executed.
What's it like when Ken Griffey Jr. comes to the plate?
He wasn't on that team.
Oh,
he wasn't on that. That was Ichiro's rookie year.
Ichiro.
So that was
Okay.
So that was Ichiro's rookie year. That was Mike Cameron, Brett Boone, those guys.
Oh, okay.
So that was that first year that he had just went to Cincinnati.
Okay. And Ichiro had your number.
Ichiro hit me good. He hit me good up until I figured out I had to move his feet. Once I figured out I had to move his feet and I can get him uncomfortable, then at my later part of my career, I started having some success against Ichi.
Explain that, moving your feet.
Just like getting him off his spot. He would be super comfortable in the box, and for me, I need to be able to command the inside part of the plate to a lefty and be able to throw my slider down and away. At that time, when I was 21 years old, I only threw like a big looping curveball. I didn't have a slider at that time, so I really had nothing to get him out with. And then accidentally one time when I was in New York, they came in New York, and I accidentally threw one up and in. Like literally just got away, and it spooked him, And ever since then, I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, I figured it out now." So after that, then I would throw one kind of close, and then I would just go to work.
Cam Schlitter had 11 pitches of 100 miles per hour or more. That seems to be the norm now. I'm surprised when guys don't throw 100 miles an hour. Where's this going?
Yeah, but the way he commanded it last night, I mean, he was just filling it up, just strike after strike. I mean, I sat down really close. I was, right next to the Boston Red Sox, on deck circle. He was throwing BBs. I mean, it looked like he was throwing 200 miles an hour, and he's got an 84-mile-an-hour slider. You know what I mean? So that difference in miles an hour is just such a huge. You have to really pick one. And as soon as you start picking one and guessing one, then you're late on the heater, and he throws 2 of those and it's 0-2. So, I mean, the way there's a lot of guys that can throw hard, right? But the way he commanded the baseball last night was very impressive.
I remember Mark Grace saying, "I'll hit your fastball. I'm going to hit the fastball because it's the breaking ball." It always comes back to the breaking ball. Because he said we see 100. If it's not moving, we'll hit it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, is there a big difference between 96 and 100?
Yes, I do think so. I mean, honestly, I haven't stood in the box and faced either one. but but when I hear these guys talk, I heard Julio Rodriguez the other day talking about his ideal fastball, like what would be the miles an hour. And to me, when I was coming up, it would have been like, I would think 92, 93. Like he's like, I need a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. So for him to even be thinking like 96 is a perfect hitting speed is insane. Because, like I said, when I was coming up, or during my time, there just wasn't guys that were able to do that consistently like it is now. So that's the hitting speed, which is crazy. And like you said, where does it go? I have no idea. I mean, you got kids in high school right now, topping 100 and just getting bigger, faster, and stronger. So, but if you can't command it, if you can't throw strikes with it, there's really no point of you being able to throw that hard.
But if you're throwing that hard, is the philosophy going to continue to be throw as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then we bring in somebody else?
I think so. I think unless we kind of change the rules, right, or do something that can, help, starting pitching, develop. I mean, even in the lower stages, you go to some of these perfect game tournaments or all this stuff. I have a 22-year-old, I got a 15-year-old going through it now. I mean, they're pitching at 4 inning clips. You know what I mean? Where they go out in these tournaments and it's 4 innings is the best stuff that you have, and then we'll bring somebody else in. So they're even being trained to not even be a starting pitcher, right? Like you have to go 5 innings to get a win, and the kids are coming up where they're not even qualifying to get wins. So I think something has to change where we get back to starting pitching, because that's what kind of like when it was Dave Stewart against whoever else. That's when you want to watch the game. When it's Roger Clemens against Pedro, that's the top billing, right? That's how you get people to watch baseball throughout the season, when you can have these starting pitching matchups.
We're talking to CC Sabathia, the Hall of Famer, joining us on behalf of MLB's postseason coverage. How do you explain Clayton Kershaw's curveball?
Now, I mean, it's really 12-6, and it's one of those things we were talking about the other day. Really just kind of him and Barry Zito have had that, left-handed curveball where you can throw a fastball at the top of the zone and then throw that curveball off of that thing, and hitters really have no chance. I mean, and even this year, I feel like, he's pitching so free and understanding and knowing that, no matter what happens, his legacy is cemented, right? Like he's going to the Hall of Fame. He's got 3,000 strikeouts, World Series. He's one of the best pitchers of his generation. So I feel like this year he's been pitching more free, and you've been seeing great results. So I'm excited, hopefully, for him to get a start in this playoffs.
Anybody similar to Shohei Ohtani, if you recall facing somebody that was similar to Ohtani?
No, I mean, I don't think there's any. I mean, I guess you can say Barry, but Barry can't go out and throw 7 innings shutout
Well, no,
baseball.
let me take away the pitch. let me take away the pitching part of it. I'm talking about facing a batter.
The best, I mean, left-handed, no. There is nobody left-handed that I feel like I faced that was that good. I mean,
Even Bonds.
yeah, I mean, I didn't face Bonds a lot. I was in the American League. I faced him one time in the All-Star game. So I didn't get a chance to face him that much. But like for me, it would have to be like a Pujols or Manny Ramirez or Miguel Cabrera. Those were all just the hardest guys for me to get out. And I would have to imagine Shohei's the same way. I mean, we show up to LA and he's 4 pitches in, he hits a 100-mile-an-hour fastball on the inside part of the plate, like out. I mean, he's the way he shows up on cue. We go to Tokyo Dome. He hits a home run in the Tokyo Dome in Japan. Like the way that he can show up in a baseball game and impact a game is incredible.
But how defeating is it the first guy you face hits a home run?
No, I mean, when you're starting, and I think that was always my problem. I never felt like I was out of it. Like, even when they were coming to get the ball, I could be giving up 7 runs in the third inning. And I'm like, nah, like I'm right there. Like I'm a couple pitches away from getting this thing right. So for me, it was always like, no, I can get this thing on track. So I never felt defeated. And I think that was always my problem.
When did you learn, or how did you learn about the rivalry with the Red Sox Yankees when you were Cleveland and Milwaukee, then you go to New York. Well, are you taught to hate the Red Sox?
No, I think it's just something that happens. And I think, throughout the AL East, I think with the Yankees, it can be different teams at different times, right? Like, there's always the rivalry between the Yankees and the Red Sox. And you understand that. And you know that when you came over. Like, I remember, that first year in '09, it was the end of April. It was the first time we were going into Boston, and it felt like, they were talking about it like it was a playoff series. We had just signed all these guys, myself, Swish, Teixeira, AJ Burnett, and, the way that they talked about that series, you would have thought that it was, October. So that was kind of my introduction to it. But, there could be points, we had fights with Toronto. There was times when Baltimore was the best in the division. I just feel like even Tampa, I feel like whoever feels like they're the best team in that division feels like they have to go through New York. And that's kind of, the way it's always been. So, there's always different times at different points where we can have, in the AL East, we can have a rivalry with anybody, but we understand how big the one in Boston is, especially when you're playing in playoff games against them.
Your assistant to the commissioner, he was on recently talking about the automated balls and strikes. You had a couple of bad calls in the Padres-Cubs game last night. Foregone conclusion that we're going to have automated balls and strikes full time soon?
I don't know full time. I know that challenge system, would have helped last night, right? Just having a chance to, I think what, Rob always says is catch the big miss. And, that was a pretty big miss in that game last night where, the Padres have some momentum. Jackson Merrill goes deep. You get a good at bat by Xander, and then he gets called out on the pitch that's out of the strike zone. For me, understanding these guys today, this generation of players, they know the strike zone. They know balls and strikes so well. And I feel like when I played, there was only a few guys that you could really count on to know balls and strikes. Like Brett Gardner was a guy that I could always, he would play center field or he'd be out there and I could always look at him and be like, you think that was a ball or a strike? And I could trust his opinion. But now every one of these guys, if you watching a game and we know that box on the screen is not very accurate, but if the ball's not in that box or around that box, those guys know when it's a ball or a strike. And to be able to just to fix that big miss in those type of games, or in any game at the end of the game, or at any point, I think it'd be great. I love that only the hitter, the catcher, and the pitcher can call it, it has to be instantaneous. And, I just think about myself, it'd be first pitch of the game and I'll be tapping the top of my helmet. So tapping my hat. So, they got to put some rules in place when you can and can't and who can and can't. So, but I'm excited about it.
Always great to catch up with you. Thanks. Talk to you later. Thank you, CC.
Yes, sir.
MLB postseason continues this weekend. You got the divisional series, TBS, Fox Sports 1, MLB Network airing pre- and post-game coverage.